I hope you can hear us now. Awesome. It is confirmed.
Okay, welcome to Basic Ass Bitches again.
So you guys may have noticed that there is a new background. Woo! Right? Which is a little bit of a part of like why we're starting so late and why we're having some of these technical difficulties. However, we are the first bitches to use this new set. So there you go, 99 Perspectives. We are blazing the way.
Blazing that trail.
So get excited. I really am pumped about our topic today. I think we're going to get to web all over the place about it.
We're going to go everywhere. So just try to stay with us.
Yeah, and basically what we're going to be talking about is perception of media, the death of truth.
The death of truth.
Things like that, So we have a fantastic guest joining us who helped curate that topic. Her name is Jacquez Chilles, and she'll be joining us here in just a little bit to talk about her perspective on some of the perceptions that she hears around in her community. So I'm basically, when I thought about this topic, one of the first things I thought about was what's called Trump derangement syndrome.
Trump derangement syndrome. Is that something I can find in the DSM-5?
Probably. You can definitely find it in the Urban Dictionary.
The Urban Dictionary, which is where I go for all my diagnostic purposes.
So so when I first heard of the term Trump derangement syndrome, what I thought of was how liberals lost their minds after Trump was elected. That was instantly what I thought that Trump derangement syndrome was.
I remember that day. Mm-hmm. I had 8 clients that day, all female. Oh, and it was a sob fest in my treatment room, I tell you what.
Uh-huh.
Whew, what a day.
Yeah, and I remember that day really well also because I've been, in organizing and activism for such a long time. And it's like pulling teeth to get people to come out for things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I started marching and protests in 2003, but I actually started organizing and really doing stuff in the Chicago community back in 2009. And from 2009 up until 2016, it was nearly impossible to get people to come out for things.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're always asking them to go out when it's fucking cold, dude.
Well, that's because canvassing always happens in the cold months. I think it's by design.
I think so.
Anyway,
I think you're right.
Yeah, it is freezing cold every single time I go out to canvass. Makes me tougher, though.
Yeah.
So, but I remember after the election in 2016, how the organizations I was a part of flooded with volunteers and people, and suddenly like all of these people who had never been engaged politically before, like got engaged. And it was actually quite exciting from my perspective of things, because I was like, finally, we're in a situation where people are actually seeing all of the horrible, bad things America has been doing for so many years.
Thanks, Trump.
Yeah, thanks, Trump. So when I heard of this Trump derangement syndrome, I was like, oh, that must be pertaining to the people whose hair like caught on fire after Trump was elected. And I was wrong, actually. When I looked it up, it's actually pertaining to the people who are like his really, really staunch loyalists, people who believe that Trump can do absolutely no wrong. He can, put children in cages and still like be said that he's like has good intention and is a good man. So that's what that's actually pertaining to.
Are you implying that Trump supporters are deranged?
I'm not implying it. I did not come up with this term of Trump derangement syndrome, nor am I implying that liberals are deranged either. It's just, all of it's very reactive, right? And one of the things that I got really keyed into after Trump was elected is that people were very comfortable with somehow with the leadership of Bush. I have no idea why people weren't as active in that time, but definitely during the era of Obama, people definitely rested on their laurels. There was this feeling or this sense of like that we had resolved all of our issues around racism and poverty, and none of that actually happened.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's this idea that when we have our first black president, that suddenly that means America is fixed racially, right. But it's just not the case. And I think, from my perception, since bitches be perceiving today.
Yeah, that's right.
From my perception, I think a lot of people felt like they could sit back because it was like, oh, here's a guy who's super charismatic and, he represents a lot of the racial issues in America and, the solutions to those. And so we can just chill a bit. He's real pretty. He's fun to look at. He doesn't cause a whole lot of drama.
Yeah, I think what we forgot though is regardless of the color of your skin, humans are corruptible.
Oh, yeah.
And ultimately, I think that that's where we go wrong as activists, as people who are involved in our communities, is we make assumptions, that aren't true at all. And then, we'll have this very charismatic leader and just sit back and chill instead of hold his feet to the fire, not understanding that he's just as corruptible as, the white dude that came before him, And I think that there's probably this belief that because you're black, you will inherently be interested in helping the black community, or say we got our first female president, because she's a woman, she will inherently be interested in protecting, women's rights. And I don't think that's true at all.
No. So okay, I know amongst the people that I know that saying that Obama has any level of corruption is going to stir some shit in the pot. So can you tell us a little bit about, where that perception comes from for you?
For me, well, I was alive during the Obama presidency.
And paying attention?
That's where that perception came from. And paying close attention. In fact, for his first 2 years of his presidency, I actually found myself defending him because I kept saying, I can't even imagine being, because obviously I haven't lived that reality, being a black man in that space of leadership and and really being able to get things done, right? And at the same time, in those first 2 years of his leadership, we did, as Democrats, have the House and the Senate. So technically speaking, you know, that the thought is for me that he should have been able to get a lot more done, and he didn't. He did not deliver on his promise that everybody would be covered for health care. And I think that was that. I mean, I think that's what he ran his campaign on, and he came up short largely on.
Well, and we were talking about this in the car on the way over here also, is that I think a lot of people really love and value Obama despite, you know, what corrupt things he did do, or willing to look past or overlook those things, because he did provide so many Americans with health care.
Yeah, and you know, I don't even like. There are some direct lines of like corruption, and then I just wonder if there is this misperception, incredible, of what it actually is like to be a person at that level of power.
Yeah.
You know, like what did he learn stepping into office that we have no idea about, and that there is no way that he could have actually shared with the American
We should
public.
bring him on the show.
We should, you know. If Obama, if you want to come and get interviewed by some basic ass bitches, you should come on now. We can ask you the tough questions. But, you know, some of the things that we forget is that, you know, because everybody paints this Trump presidency as the say-all, end-all of, like, evil and badness, right? You know, you take it and you compare it to Obama, and it's all very superficial, right? Because if you actually look at the policies of Obama, they don't look that different from the policies of Trump, right? So Obama expanded our wars, right? He ran out of bombs, droning, right? Completely expanded all of these powers of the presidential office, which now
Trump is taking advantage of.
And like, how can we really blame him for that? I mean, Guantanamo Bay is still a thing.
Yeah.
Like, what is going on there?
So what you're saying is, like, Obama set it up and Trump just, like, knocked it down.
Absolutely he did. And I think
so they're on the same volleyball team, like set and spike.
Absolutely. So did you hear about these Afghanistan papers that came out recently?
I was reading a little bit about them. But tell us, because I know that you've definitely done a deep dive.
Basically, I mean, I can't even say that it was like super deep dive. It's just an understanding of what came out in those papers, which is basically over 3 presidencies, starting with the Bush presidency. We have been lied to.
Yeah, totally.
About what we're doing in Afghanistan and all, you know, and all of the expanding conflicts, you know, beyond that. And basically, there are records of our leaders saying, we don't know what the fuck we're doing over here. Yeah. We don't know who our targets are. We are wasting time. You know, so that's what's going on in these Afghanistan papers, which I think is like the Pentagon, if I could be mistaken on this, but it's the Pentagon's own report on themselves, basically. And so, so while inside of these Pentagon papers are talking about how they don't know what they're doing, we're not getting anywhere, this is all a disaster, the media is painting this picture of like that we're these heroes and these you know, and that they really need us over there.
Well, and the media has such an easy time doing that with the way that our information systems are set up currently. Like the propaganda that comes at us is inevitable and completely out of control. And we can't even see it. It's like it's in our blind spot over here. We really just can't even tell that we're being lied to constantly.
Yep, absolutely.
It's funny,
but we're not lying to you.
No, no, it's funny because I was talking to our nephew the other day, and essentially, you know, telling him, don't believe anything you read or hear. Look up the information, find varying sources, and create your own perception, because there really is no objective truth on the internet.
No, absolutely not. And to consider all
Consider them all.
point of views.
I told him consider them all as valid and believe none of them.
So that actually walks us right into the next thing we were going to be talking about. Oh, and one more thing that I was going to say about the Trump derangement syndrome is I think one of the reasons I was lucky enough to not have my hair catch on fire after the 2016 election is because my hair's been on fire since like 2003. You know what I mean? Like I don't have any hair left.
I mean, a little bit.
A little bit. But, you know, it's when I think, when you're already aware of what's going on and you're already aware of like the level of, you know, tyranny we impose on other people, like that we are largely the terrorists, you know, abroad. You know, when you already are aware of that, you know, your hair, you're not going to get all that put off track by having an elected leader that represents that. Okay, so to say that, but then also, I think there's also something to be said about feeling like there's power, that you have personal power in the conversation. So I guess that's basically to plug like just being a political activist or organizer, doing what you can, giving money to organizations, you know, that you support. It's all very important, not only to actually push, a conversation, any conversation, but it's also really important just for one's own sanity, just to be a part of like taking action and doing something about it instead of having your hair catch on fire, run around the street and like not actually impact anything. So
if you want to impact some shit, reach out to Kira.
Yeah, you can definitely find. I'm easy to find.
She is. Relating to that, we were looking at these perception gaps. You can find this at perceptiongap.us. And it has some interesting surveys and information about the distorted perceptions that we have of each other. And I found some interesting information about, how, for example, I think we have this image here, the increased media consumption.
I think we do. But I would say if Paul wants to put up an image, he should just put up an image, and that's the one we should talk about.
Democrats' perception gap. So what this is showing here is that, let's see, Democrats' perception gap. So you can see the top line there is properly controlled immigration can be good for America. You can see that the blue dot is Democrats' estimates of what Republicans think. The red dot is what Republicans actually think.
And then the gray is the gap.
The gray is the gap. So you can see here that there are pretty wide gaps in what we believe each other's perceptions to be from the left and the right. There are small gaps here on that Donald Trump is a flawed person.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the Democrats guessed right on
guessed
what the
about
Republicans
right on.
thought.
Yeah.
Okay, that's pretty good.
Yeah. And the other small gap here is that people are right to be concerned about how climate change might affect us. So they kind of align.
So Democrats guessing on Republicans was a 19% gap as an average of all of those things.
Yep.
And then I know that there's also a chart of Republicans guessing on
Republicans' perception
Democrats.
gap. Yeah, there it is.
Boom.
So you can see that Republicans. Okay, so what I really like to point out on here is that
Paul is on the ball, by the way.
Paul is on the ball. Thank you, Paul.
You're succeeding.
You're doing better than trying. So we can see on this chart there isn't as much. Like we had those two smaller gaps on the Democrats' perceptions. On the Republicans' perceptions, there's a gap on all of them. So essentially what this all shows us is that we don't really know each other's views. We're all just kind of guessing at what the other party thinks.
Well, I don't even know if it's guessing. I think we're fed
we're
a narrative of what the other party thinks, and then we believe that narrative.
But because we're being fed this false narrative and not actually communicating with each other, we're just believing what we see in the media or on the internet.
Right.
It is kind of just a guess. I mean, you might as well take a guess.
Right.
Because it's all false anyway.
It's all fake news,
It's
man.
all fake news. Someone dreamt it up and then we believed it.
Right. Exactly. What's the next graph you have over there?
Okay, the one I really like is increased media consumption and the perception gap. Do we have that one? Okay.
There's
That's
the
the
V-shape.
V-shape perception.
Ooh,
I
I wanted to talk about that one too, and that one too.
That one's good too.
All of them are very good. We can talk about any of these.
They're all so good. Okay.
Let's talk about the V-shaped
The V
perception gap.
You really like this one. So what came up for
Let
you?
me get a closer view
Yeah,
on your phone. I just liked a few of these because I like talking about like politics as it pertains to like social environments.
Yeah.
You know?
So this graph is like from left to right. It is the more extreme views are on the end.
Right, so we have
and the more
progressive
moderates.
activists on one end, which would be someone like me, and then devoted conservatives on the far other end, which might be like a MAGA guy, right?
Yeah.
And then everybody in between. And basically that the the V-shaped perception gap is that the further out you are on the wing,
on the left or right,
the more of a gap there is on
more
your
distorted your perception is.
Yeah, absolutely. So that would mean that based on this, that I have a very distorted perception of Republicans. And they do. And they do. And that's not actually true either because you know what? I have some friends that are Republicans.
I have a Republican friend.
Oh, man. I'm going to get in trouble for that one.
Yeah, you are.
All right, so
Yeah, you are.
let's do the next graph.
So, okay, I don't know if we have it, but there's the increased media consumption and the perception gap. And what it shows for us is that people who more closely follow the news have a wider perception gap, a more distorted perception of how the other side thinks about things.
Right.
And people who hardly watch the news, which means that they're probably getting their information from talking to people. Right. They have a smaller perception gap, a less distorted perception of what people with differing views are thinking. So if you want to know the truth about how people are thinking about things, just talk to them.
Stop watching the news.
Stop watching the news. So yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit about how we've come to this. So you were saying, like, during Bush's presidency, why weren't people's hair on fire? Mm-hmm. And something that I've been seeing more and more of, and we've all been seeing more and more of, is targeted marketing on social media.
Okay.
And just on the internet, because Google does targeted marketing. So those ads that you see popping up on your Instagram that want to sell you this lovely handbag or this great pair of shoes, or what does Instagram try to sell you?
I don't know.
Fitness equipment?
I don't hang out on Instagram at all.
Oh, Facebook. What does Facebook try to sell you?
Facebook is like all politics and fitness. Yeah,
politics and fitness.
Yep.
Yeah, Facebook
basically.
tries to sell me
and
clothes.
makeup.
Oh, and makeup.
I love makeup.
So what is happening there is that they're collecting information about you and what you search, and then they're creating links between, what people tend to commonly search for. So let's say you really like Jeeps, and you're gonna Google search on like the newest model of a Jeep. I don't know anything about cars. And
newest model of Jeep. Perfect.
That's the thing. So
the 2020.
The 2020
Jeep.
Model.
A red one.
A red one, of course. So Google might say, oh, hey, this person liked Jeeps. And most people we find who like Jeeps also like guns and hunting. And people who like guns and hunting also like Republican-skewed media. Mm-hmm. And people who like that also like, they group you based on what you're searching and what your interests are, so that you end up getting...
Are you saying the internet is prejudice?
Yes. Yes. And there are analysts who work at these companies who are trained in psychology and are like creating these algorithms to figure out what to show you, what you want to see.
To make assumptions about you.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I recently read the book, The Death of Truth by Michiko Kakutani.
That's a good try.
Michiko Kakutani. I hope that's right. But anyway, I read the
It makes me think of Mokiki does the sloppy switch, though.
Mokiki does the sloppy switch.
If you don't know what we're talking about, you
should
should
look it up. Look it up.
Mokiki does the sloppy swish. It's amazing. Anyway, go on.
Okay, so in The Death of Truth, they're discussing how we get put into these silos, and we're kind of stuck in these silos. So anything you and I search on Google to try and find information about the topics we're talking about, they're going to give us information that aligns with what we already believe. So
I was actually wondering about that today as I was looking up statistics.
You're like, how do I even know that
for
any
our
of this
conversation
is accurate?
that's coming up?
Yeah.
I was like, all of this supports what I believe. I don't believe this.
Well, exactly.
Right?
If everything you're looking up supports what you believe, then you're probably stuck in an internet silo. And these internet silos, they keep you trapped by not giving you the information of the other side. And so our perceptions of each other continue to get more and more distorted because, you're on Facebook and Facebook is recommending that you be part of this page that has memes about, memes against President Trump or memes for President Trump. And so these memes are flying at you and these pages are flying at you based on what you already enjoy. And so you're like, oh yeah, that thing I read on that meme is totally accurate because when I Google searched it, I found a document on Breitbart about it. And really, it's just giving you what you want to see. So it's really difficult, actually, to find the truth on the internet or in any of our media sources.
Yeah, I got an interesting comment from Heimdall's Gate saying someone did a study of the targeted ads, but instead of politics, they used the atheist versus PragerU ads. They found that they were targeting each other because of the hate watches. So
Yeah.
my goal with this show is hate watching. I'm really solidly grounded in that. Eventually, we will get a lot of hate watching.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I imagine so.
Yep.
It's
Looking forward to it.
It's kind of inevitable, isn't it?
I hope so. Anyway,
We are our own silo.
for sure. And
For
I
sure.
need to read this book. It sounds
It's
really interesting.
It's really fun. I mean, most books you're going to read also have a very subjective perspective because there is no objectivity anymore.
Do you really believe that?
The truth is dead.
Do you believe that?
Well, yeah. I mean, anything that we're writing down, statistics that we're taking, studies that we're doing, the person that is performing it, because as you said, humans are corruptible. We all have our own lens and perception that we're looking at information and life through. And so that lens, is going to distort how we perceive this information and therefore how we write it down. And then someone else who is reading that and translating it, their perception is also distorted by the lens through which they see life. Mm-hmm. So because all of this information is being recorded and read by humans, it's all going to be distorted based on the lens of that human. So the objectivity is only exists in the moment that the event happens. Once the event is past and its history, it's completely subjective.
Yeah, I get in this conversation a lot, actually, with my husband, Mark. And he's like, no, fact is fact. And that's it. And I'm just like, well, yeah, And so, because I play around a little bit more in the gray as well. And I've seen how, like, a study can be skewed just based on the human that's running the study.
Yeah,
right?
the human that's running it might only pick certain people.
So you have a human at the beginning of something and the human, the consumer at the end of something. So,
Well, because we have these ingrained prejudices, as we were talking about last week. We're all prejudiced. We have these ingrained prejudices that skew what we're doing, even if we're trying our best not to be prejudiced. It's still there. It's completely automatic, and we don't even see it most of the time.
Yep. So awesome. Should we invite our guest on?
We should invite our guest on.
You wanna intro her?
Yeah. So our guest is Jacquez Chilles. And she is a friend of ours.
She is a friend of ours. Super excited.
She also co-owns a CBD-infused food company. Has a marijuana-infused puppy chow.
Yes.
Yeah. And what is the company called again?
The Wondering Cantina is
The
the name
Wondering
of-
Cantina.
Yes. So we're really excited about that. So it's our new product that we're pushing out there now with the whole legalization. And so really excited. It's like our Garrett's popcorn brought to Puppy
Yeah!
Chow.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Carrots, and I love puppy chow. So
I
that's
do
awesome.
too. I was actually wondering when you said puppy chow if it was the human puppy chow or the puppy chow, just to get clear on who we're getting high.
For the humans.
It's definitely
for the humans.
So are you using like rice checks or corn checks in your puppy chow?
We do a mixture. So
Okay, cool.
yeah, we do a mixture, and we change it up based off of people's needs, and so we'll see how that product comes out.
Nice. I'm
Yes.
excited to try it.
How long have you owned this business?
Actually, it's Andrea Landon. She's my partner. She's the spirit of all of this, and so we've been doing this for about 3 years, ever since her mom got sick with cancer. So,
okay.
so that's kind of where it got started. And then the CBDs is new. It's something that I'm literally just getting into this year, but it literally works. I'm like, oh, I have to do this. And I'm like, so I just put this on here, and it goes away, my headache, and it works.
It works.
It
Wow.
works. It
I've
really
I've
works.
only ever
Yeah.
smoked CBD.
How does that work for you?
It gave me a headache. So
See, I think that the same thing will happen to me. if smoke CBD.
I love smoking.
Okay.
It is a favorite activity of mine. I'm not a drinker. I like inhaling things that burn. And so when I was in Europe and couldn't get access to THC, they had CBD that you could roll and smoke. And I was like, fuck yeah, I'll go for that. Getting a mic fix over here.
Yeah.
And
Thanks to all of our viewers.
and so I tried that out, and I think I was disappointed because I didn't get like the high that what I was really looking for was to get high. And I didn't get that. So it was certainly a disappointment. But then also the CBD chilled me out so much that I just wanted to go to bed, and I was like traveling Europe, so who the fuck wants to go to bed when they're
Exactly. I mean, the CBDs is really all about the health. It's really, so the CBDs is strictly, the puppy chow, let's have some fun. The CBDs is all about like health and wellness and giving you energy so you can do the stuff that you need to do.
Yeah, I
so
think I was misguided in my, my intentions.
at least
and-
what ours is about.
So I mean, when I'm on the right track for like doing what I actually want to do rather than like taking a lesser substitute, maybe I'll enjoy the CBT more. I'll have to try it out.
You have to try it again for the right
sake
reason.
of actually trying it.
Wandering Cantina, and is that like wanderingcantina.com? Because to find you guys, or
Right now, you'll probably just have to look for us. You can look us up by the name Wandering Cantina, but otherwise, you'll just have to look up Andrea Landon
Okay, great.
on Facebook to get
cool.
connected. Yeah.
Cool.
Awesome. So when we originally started talking about topics,
Yes.
you basically said, man, I love to talk about anything, but what I really love to talk about is politics, right?
I do. I'm like that. I'm a person, I want to talk about politics and religion. I lean serious when I have conversations. I don't know. I'm like this goofy person, but I want to talk politics.
You want to talk serious.
So we're like, all right, well, you should definitely come on our show. And you had specifically mentioned, I don't know, like, I'm making this up. It's a total story, right? But I don't know if there was like confusion around like what you see in the support of the Black community, right?
Yeah.
And so I want you to expand a little bit more on like your perception and what you see in the Black community and support for our current president. And I also, if you have any gauge on like the primaries too, I'm really curious.
Well, really, I'm telling you right now, I can care less about the primaries. I feel like, and that is maybe me right now, because I just want who can beat Donald Trump.
Okay.
That's kind of where I'm at. But overall, like, Black people are really like, so a recent polling was just done. They said if they didn't have an actual Democratic candidate, only about 15% would still choose Donald Trump. Okay. But even still, there's been so much talk about like what's actually going on. And I think what's there is that a lot of people appreciate like even him reaching out. Like Democrats just assume they got us. Most Republicans ignore us all the time. At least he's reaching out. half of them feel like all I have to say is Obama didn't do it, then Donald Trump will do it. Like, you know, because everyone gets
which I can actually see that point, since Trump is hell-bent on
just
essentially doing the opposite of anything that Obama did.
Exactly. And so everyone's like, shoot, we need this. Just say Obama wouldn't do it for us. Maybe Trump would do it. You know? And so you have that as like a running joke in the black community as well. You see a lot more black men who are more in support of Donald Trump, and they're like, because he is creating those jobs. Overall, though, the sentiment is still there that the increased racism, the increased bigotry, the increase of all this hate and all of that stuff going on, that for the most part, people wouldn't vote for Donald Trump, but they want to. They want to. Like, even for myself, like, when it was first going around, before we even had our Democratic candidate, I was taking a poll and just kind of see who aligned with me the most. 63% of my views agree with Donald Trump views.
Okay.
I'm like, oh, wow. And then I was at 29% with Bernie Sanders, 29% with Hillary.
Wow.
And so,
Okay.
I know. And so it was like, oh, wow, okay. But at the end of the day, when I actually went and voted, I did not vote for Donald Trump. And
Is it because you saw his Twitter?
No, not even because it's Twitter. Like,
Yeah, so why did you choose to not vote for Donald Trump if more of your views aligned?
it's simply literally because of that fear of the racial, the racial issues and the
Yeah, I mean, he really
turnover.
tilled up a lot of,
Created a
like...
lot of divisiveness.
Yeah, but my question about that is, wasn't that already there and it was just not being stirred?
Yes.
You know, and on some level, is that more dangerous to, like, ignore the fact that this whole country is built on racism? You know, I mean, over 200 years of slavery, you know, and that's bonkers, being that we're not even that much older than 200 almost 300 years old, right? How old is the fucking America? I don't even know. 1776. Look it up.
1776. Do the math.
Do the math. I'm not gonna.
Let us know.
So that's my question frequently. So I do a show here in this space also called Hard Lens Media, where we discuss political current events, right?
Okay.
And one of the questions that we got posed with one time, is because we're mega left leaning, so you know, we're like super haters of some of these establishment Democratic candidates, right? And so the question was posed at the time: what's more dangerous for our next presidential election, a Pete Buttigieg presidency or a Trump presidency? And I think Pete Buttigieg was chosen because A, he was the topic of whatever that conversation was, but B, I think Pete Buttigieg is very emblematic of, like, we just need to get back to where we were with Obama, right? Like, let's just get back to that, right? And so I guess what I'm pointing to, you know, when I bring up this story and how that whole conversation went is it more dangerous to just sweep under the rug what the issues of this country are, or is something like Trump something that has to happen in order for healing to happen? So that's where I get to in this whole conversation, because when you really look at what happened after Trump became elected, I run an organization called Warriors for the Matriarchy, and we are focused on getting more women into elected office. You know what got a lot of women into elected office, like skyrocketed women into elected office? Trump's presidency.
Yeah.
You know,
I can see that. I can see that, because a lot of people, even in the black community, they would say, you know, this could be good because it gets those who are just complacent and sitting around, like, up voting, actually involved, doing things. Or even with a Trump presidency, like, yeah, he's going to cut this, he's going to cut this. You got to work 2-3 jobs. You got to become an entrepreneur. And, you know, and that's good overall. Even if you're forced into it, it may be good overall for the economy or just for the stability of your family. And so you see a lot of that. Like, a lot of the entrepreneurs, they're like, I can rock with Trump. I don't have any problems. You know, I got the laws here. Somebody come to my house, I got my gun. Like,
right.
You come, I don't care about the racists. I'm going to shoot you like you can shoot me. Like, what's up? You know? And so you have those viewpoints of people who can, like, you know, I can align with this.
I could get on board.
Yeah, I can get on board because I can take care of myself. It doesn't affect me as it might affect someone else. But overall, you still have the sentiment. You still have that segment that's like, it does affect you. These policies affect the overall group. And yes, you can protect yourself, but what about this person, this one, and that one? And so we need someone who's a little bit more moderate, that, that's not constantly having this being brought to our attention, brought to our face the way that it was back in the 60s or back in Jim Crow, because, we don't want to go there, And so it's really interesting, just kind of the mixture of where everyone is. Of
what actually happened after Trump became president. I think it's been an interesting turn of events, We actually, knock on frickin' wood, and by I don't think any effort of Trump himself, haven't actually expanded our wars at all, so that's
he's definitely trying.
I don't know that he's taking a lot of action to avoid it, but and that's interesting. But then also when I was doing research on Black communities and how they've been impacted by the Trump presidency, if you look at some of the graphs, actually, Black families are doing better under a Trump presidency now than they were during. And to be fair, Obama was handed a real shit economy, right?
Right.
So we have to keep that in mind when we look at these graphs. But Black families are doing better now than they basically ever have, which on one level makes sense. We are progressing as a society, but at the same time, it's like, do you think that maybe Black communities are more inclined to support Trump because they're feeling that economic boost at all? In
all truthfulness, I don't have it that for the majority that they're looking to support Trump.
Okay.
But they can understand him because it's to them is almost like a breath of fresh air. At least he's honest. At least we know it's the one that's racist right in front of your face versus the passive racist that's gonna come underneath the house or something.
Right, which is what I was pointing to with another like establishment milquetoast presidency.
And I feel like in general though, and that's also the issue with the Democratic Party, like they're leaning so far left that they're not dealing, if the African Americans supposed to be their base, or Black women, Black people overall tend to be more conservative. They just don't lean with the conservatives because it occurs to them as picking the racists, for the most part.
Interesting. So what are the policies? What are the policies that you find that your community aligns with that is more conservative?
About immigration, sanctuary cities. Those are two really big policies that they tend to align more that way with not. Really, all of the issues, a lot of the issues that the Democratic Party seems to talk about more occur to African Americans as like luxury issues, such as dealing with like who gets to go to what bathroom. Like, at least you get to go to a bathroom, Yeah. And it's like so. When it comes to things like that, like the social issues, they tend to lean more right. At the same time, we're still like more in the middle. We're always about protecting people and not having people left out of harm. But we're dealing with these issues, and we need to deal with real issues like the economy, like criminal justice reform.
Totally.
What's actually happening? What's actually going to actually lift us out of this,
So I know a lot of our viewers are very curious. So I'm just going to ask, who are you supporting in these upcoming elections?
I do not know.
We have a question for Gary Johnson voter.
Well, and then someone else was like, she should check out Tulsi Gabbard.
I do not know who I am supporting as far as it comes for the election. Up front, it occurs to me that I'm not going to vote for Trump again, but I really want someone that at least meets us in the middle. I'm tired of the far left and the far right.
You're tired of the extremes.
I'm tired of the extremes. Extremes do nothing. Where's the compromise?
Yeah,
Where is the working together?
And
that's really been, I feel like, my concern, and there's a whole nother segment African Americans and people who are more concerned with that, like where are we working together at? Where are we moving forward at? Is every single thing is if they said it, then I'm a no, and if you say it, I'm a no.
Right,
that's
like
that's
no
issue.
matter what.
No matter what.
Even if we agree on something,
I'm
we're
going
gonna
to
make sure.
oppose you out of principle.
That's right.
Because you're a different party than I am.
And then like what the fuck is that? You know, like, can we be adults? Like I feel like that's where I'm at. Like as I'm an educator as well. And, you know, I don't get mad at students what they're doing, various things. I'm like, these adults are acting a stone cold fool. Like, these adults can't even have conversations and actually deal with actual issues versus spitting out propaganda. Because that's right, you know, it really is propaganda. It's not facts. It's not what we're actually dealing with. It's not actual solutions. It's just garbage going back and forth. And so, really, I'm looking to see which of the candidates actually stand out in that regards, and that's what I'm hoping we lean someone strong. I do think we need a male. I think because, you know, the ultimate goal, the underneath goal is also someone who can beat Donald Trump.
You can beat Donald Trump. And you don't think that in our political climate today that a woman can win?
No. And I was very upset the last go around that so many white women didn't vote for Hillary Clinton. But, you know, I digress. And I'm like, I don't think a woman can win right now. We need a white male. That's what we need right now.
We need a white dude. We need a white dude who's moderate and can beat Trump.
That is too funny.
You know,
well, it's interesting
seriously,
that you say
I think so because the goal is to beat Trump. You
Yeah.
need someone who's going to hit at his base, and it's more so with the perception.
Well,
like,
it's
why do
interesting
we?
because I was also looking at polls of the African American community and who they're supporting, specifically in New Hampshire because we're coming up, on the New Hampshire primary. On Tuesday. So I was looking at before our show, like, who is the African American community polling for in New Hampshire, and I saw a lot of Buttigieg, and I was like, why is Buttigieg so fucking popular? Now that you've said all that, I'm like, oh, that makes sense. It's someone who's not like so extreme.
Yeah.
And
he's a white male. He's also a gay white male.
He's also a gay white male.
So I don't know
He
what the thoughts
doesn't-
are on that as far as if America's...
He doesn't really represent gay white men, though.
Oh,
doesn't-
that's a strong statement,
I
Sammy.
mean,
What do you
he
mean?
doesn't really represent queer people. He hides behind being a white man, and that he's not like flamboyant or especially feminine in any way. So he doesn't like this is all based on perception, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So he's not occurring for people as a queer.
And he doesn't have such an extensive record like poor Joe Biden.
I know.
Really, but if you look at Pete's record, nobody really knows what Pete stands for.
Yeah.
And so there's this like safe sort of like realm. So that's a really good point. I guess I didn't really see this safeness, this like middle of the line, not to stand for anything.
Right.
Really. But that would be the element that beats Trump. But I feel like I feel like the American people are smarter than that. And I know also, like, my husband would disagree with me on that.
Your husband disagrees with you on everything.
Yeah. We've got the Trump-Obama thing going on between the two of us. Like, no matter what I say, he will disagree with it and vice versa.
I really enjoy watching. One of my favorite pastimes is watching you two debate.
But yeah, like I think that there is a safeness probably that people feel with a candidate like Pete Buttigieg, even though I look at someone like Pete Buttigieg and I'm like, we already played this game of like middle of the road establishment, and I don't think it's a winner because I think the American people are fed up with billionaires funding campaigns.
Yeah, I really do think they're fed up with that, and they're just fed up. I hate the niceness. I hate the political correctness. Like, I was listening to the radio station the other day, and it was like, that whole Michelle Obama saying, when they go low, we go high. And I'm like, no, when they go low, step on their head. Like, that's what I want. Like, that's what America wants.
Absolutely.
Because, in my mindset, that's why people love Trump in a sense, like, because he's not politically correct. He's all about, like, when you look at him, he's like the American cowboy. He's an American winner, and wherever the fuck I say goes, and that's it. And that's how he portrays himself, and that's how America as a whole, that is really the perception that we really see of ourselves. And like, even in the conversation, just listening to you two, I'm like going back and forth, like, you know what? That's kind of true. Like, Democrats are like, we're the saviors of the world, and the Republicans are like, you know, we're here to dominate and win, and, you know, maybe we'll give you something just in case, you know, if it worked for us, you know? Yeah. And that's like kind of where the line is at.
Yeah, it's and like, do you go with like this, like condescending, or do you go with like these assholes, right? Like,
exactly.
Which one do I line with more?
Exactly. And so like, and I think everyone's just tired of, or at least I'm tired of it. And if you hear me, Democrats, I need y'all to come a little bit over to the middle and get some balls. Like, do something.
I think getting balls is really the big piece. Whether it's far left or more centrist on in the Democratic Party.
Right.
One of the things, because my candidate's Bernie Sanders. I love Bernie. And one of the biggest complaints of him, like from our own side, is that he's not swinging his balls enough, right? Like, it's like, come on, dude, stop apologizing for things. Like, you know, one of your surrogates said this, or, you know, somebody else, like, yeah, there was this big hoopla about like Joe Rogan endorsing Bernie Sanders, and the media, like, again, their hair caught on fire. Like, Joe Rogan, you mean the misogynist who blah, 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 you know, all this stuff. And it's like, and then everybody was waiting for Bernie to apologize, because that's what Bernie does, is freaking apologizes all the time. And he didn't. And I was like, okay, well, I think that tells me that he's got his ear to the ground. But also, it's like, we got to do this, like, this switch in this realm of like politeness, right? Yes, people were so mad at Nancy Pelosi for tearing up like Trump's speech. Are you crazy? I'm mad at her for like initialing and okaying his defense budget. Yeah. You know, like, what? Like, there are real things going on here, and this like being polite and cordial and nice is wasting a lot of time.
It is. Like Jacquez was saying, you know, the Democrats are the saviors of the world.
Right.
And so I think it's really easy for them to fall into this, like, oh, if I'm the savior of the world, I'm for humans, then I have to be polite. I can't, you know, say this thing because it's going to like isolate some people. I can't say this thing. I have to avoid that.
Yes, and that's all they're doing, like a song and dance pony show, trying to make sure they're inclusive for every single thing. And it's like, it doesn't work. Let's deal with the actual issue, deal with something, and hit them back the way that they're swinging at you. Like,
yeah, just be honest, yo.
I think that, you know,
and just kind of let go of the perspective, like, we're not that. We're not that. Like, if you ask, you know, especially from an African American's perspective, we'd be like, you know, when have we ever been good? And African Americans like me would be like, and I'm still 100% American, and what? You know, like, and I feel like that's kind of where you get that divide in people. It's like, really, like, so that's why I can tend to lean more towards the conservative side, because I don't have an issue with it. Like, yeah, I get what happened, and I'm my own person now, and I can make moves, and you can't stop me. It's kind of the viewpoint that I have, you know, and so.
Yeah, so rather than continuing to widen this, you know, perception gap by consuming all of this media and trying to be as politically correct as possible, how about just, like, be real and upfront and talk to people.
Exactly. And deal with the actual issues.
Deal with the actual issues.
Give me real solutions. I don't care about anything else. I want a real solution. Like, let's move forward. And so.
That's awesome. Yeah, we got some really great chats going on here. Someone, Heimdallsgate said, yep, Pete is the same as Hillary. Gray Walker Vet for Tulsi made a point about Bernie having to be careful not to be kicked out of the Democratic Party. So it's like this like niceness and tiptoeing, because he's always been independent except for the 2 times that he's run for president.
Right.
But yes, and then Heimdallsgate says, if Dems don't fall too far into the soft bigotry of low expectations, I think that's what she's getting at.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, we have
How
to be
are we on
responsible
time?
for time.
All right.
It's 12:07. We did start
we got
late.
a little late. It was a late start, but I think that was a fucking great conversation.
Yeah, I
Thanks
think it
for
was great.
joining
Thanks for
us.
Thanks for
us,
having
Jacquez.
me. Yeah, I mean, I love talking about politics, and so it is good to kind of get others' perspectives and see what's going on, what's out there, and to be able to put out your voice. Like, could we do something like for real? Could we lean from the left, come to the center, and actually take action?
Can we start having conversations?
Can we start
Yes.
having real
Negotiations?
conversations?
Like real conversations.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. Without automatically pitting ourselves against one another. It's like,
Right.
where is there a commonality here? And I think in a lot of the reports that I was reading, especially that percentage gap, which we will link to this so that y'all can look at all of those graphs. It was a really
fascinating.
amazing article. I mean, I was like enthralled. I was like, I definitely want to talk about this, and we'll link that. But I think it's interesting because one of the conclusions they come to by the end of it is that there's a lot more commonality among us than we know. And again, I'm going to put on my tinfoil hat because that's so totally my role, I feel like, in so many aspects of my life. And I'm going to say that's all by design as well.
Yeah.
The divisiveness, the two-party system is all created so that we all pit ourselves against each other. And so that we're never actually looking at those few people at the top that are running the show.
Yeah.
You know, so.
I agree with that.
All right, cool.
So,
well,
yeah,
thank
well-
you. We should plug some things. So,
We should plug
all
some
right.
things. Okay,
On
so
me.
my husband got a little salty that our husbands plugged our show and we didn't plug theirs yet. So I'm gonna plug our husband's show.
Yes,
The
our
evolution.
husbands with the apostrophe after the S.
Yes.
Both husbands.
We
a
don't.
plural. We don't
which
share
You
one.
don't share a husband.
Nope.
We do share a building.
We do now share a
We do
building.
share a building. So our husband's show is The Evolution of Manly. You can check that out on YouTube. Subscribe. Give them a hello for us. Ring their bell. They really like when you ring the
You
bell.
can ring my bell.
Also, subscribe to us, Basic Ass
bell.
Bitches. We're here 3 Sundays a month at 11-ish a.m. Central Time.
At 11-ish a.m.
11-ish
exactly.
a.m. Central Time.
And then also, if you are in the Chicago area and you want to check out the studio that we get to do our show in.
Look at this awesome fucking studio.
Right?
I mean, really.
I mean, come
you
on.
want to
Get
be
that
here.
3 shot. Right. We're having a party tonight. Tonight, we're having a party. So bring your friends, bring your neighbors, bring Randy Gonzalez.
It's at 6 p.m. here at 99 Perspectives. You can also subscribe to 99 Perspectives on YouTube.
On YouTube as well.
Yep.
And you can access all of the shows that they show here in the studio through their channel as well. So it's super duper awesome. You know, and we are only 2 subscribers away from 100 subscribers for our YouTube channel. So you guys share this out, especially if you enjoyed this conversation. I know that I did.
Yes.
This is the shit I love talking about too. This is why I wanted to do this show. So thank you again, Jacquez. And then
Thank you.
thank, of course,
Thank
my
you for
sister
being
bitch,
here.
Sammy.
Thank you.
And you're welcome.
And thank all of you for joining or watching afterward. We appreciate you. And we'll see you. Are we on next week?
Yeah, we're on next week.
We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.